Craig Muter on the line right now. Good morning, Craig. Big numbers in Cooperstown.
Oh, your buddy, Mr. Piazza, went in. So your Mets fans came up in mass, along with the Mariners fans. It was you either saw Mariners gear or Mets gear, and that's what it was. It was amazing.
And I'm hearing numbers of like 50,000 plus.
Yeah, that's the call, Bill. We think it's very similar to what it was in 1999 with Nolan Ryan and George Brett and Robin Yount, that class. It really was. You looked out and you did not see any green on the Clark Sports Center site. It was just all a sea of humanity. And what a day. We got very lucky. The weather gods were very kind to us in Cooperstown, and it was just an amazing experience.
So give us some highlights, some things that happened, maybe some personal things that you encountered over the weekend.
Well, I tell you what. Last night, after we ended the day was over, and I was back at the hotel where the Hall of Famers stay, and I was walking down the steps, and all of a sudden, right in front of me, he's walking, perpendicular to me, is Jim Rice. And wow. Jim, I started here in 08, and then 09 was really my first induction, where I got my feet wet. And Jim Rice was elected that year. And Jim saw me, and he turned, and he just broke into this big smile and gave me this big hug and said, "This was great. I just love this place." And this is a guy, you remember him, Bill. Jim Rice was a pretty serious guy on the field. Yeah. This is not a guy you messed around with or a guy who was bubbly. But that experience, being a Hall of Famer, it changes these guys. And you saw it with Junior Griffey yesterday. I think everybody here pretty much expected that Mike Piazza was going to cry during his speech. He said he was going to cry during his pre-induction press conference, and he's an emotional guy. We knew it. But Junior, I don't think anybody expected him to cry. That's not who he is. But the moment when he looked out and he saw his family and he saw the fans and he realized where he was, that moment just overwhelmed him. Yeah. And that's something that's so special. It only happens here in Cooperstown.
Yeah. And, Piazza said that when he was actually reading portions of his speech in the mirror, he was doing a little practicing, he began to cry then. So you would expect that there, but on the Griffey Jr. side, it is. It's what... you're talking about baseball's elite, and when it finally must dawn on these guys that they're among the elite, that's got to be something really special.
And it's easy as fans to forget that these guys are all human beings. We see them on the field, and they're performing their miracles daily, either on the mound or on the bases or in the batter's box, and you think that they're almost robots. They just do this. When you see them here in Cooperstown, you really feel like, these guys are human beings. They went through this process. They worked hard to get this. And now at the end, they see it. They see what it was all about. Yeah. And they appreciate it. And that's the magic of Cooperstown.
You mentioned the process. There's, of course, a voting process. 99.3%, I believe, for Griffey Jr. That's the most ever, if I'm not mistaken. But who voted against him? Why? How can that person still vote? Yeah. It's crazy that he didn't get 100%.
Jeff, I have talked to writers who have actually tried to track them down, the three, and they have not been able to do that. So who it is and why they decided to do, you don't know. In any election you hold like that, you're always going to have people who vote certain ways, and you say, wow, this doesn't really make any sense. But you're talking about 99.3% of people agreeing on anything. Yeah. It's amazing, that number. And I'll give you the example that happened last year. In 2015, when Pedro Martinez was elected, he got about 91% of the vote. And during his electee press conference down in New York City, right the day after, some writer asked him, "Hey, does it bother you that you only got 91%?" And Pedro was like, "Really? 91% of people said I was a Hall of Famer, and I'm going to be bothered by the other 9%. That's not going to happen. Yeah. So when you look at it that way, it truly is amazing.
But when you get so close to 100%, you got to be like, okay, who are you? Who out there? Yeah. But what a weekend! What a weekend! And it's what it's all about. Cooperstown had to be just completely pleased. Everybody at the Hall of Fame had to be pleased with what you got this weekend. That's really just an incredible number and incredible electricity with great weather.
Yeah,
It was absolutely, and now you turn the page. Here we go. We start with 2017 all over. Basically tomorrow we start planning for next year, and it's going to be another good one. We're looking at I think we're looking at guys like Jeff Bagwell and Tim Raines and maybe Trevor Hoffman next year. So we're on a roll, and knock on wood, we're going to stay on it.
Listen, I want to ask you one quick question before we let you go. I know you're busy all weekend long. Did you follow any baseball news like the Chris Sale story with the White Sox who got scratched? Did you follow that story at all?
It was interesting because that was happening on Saturday night, and we were at an event here at the museum, and there were a couple reporters there, and they were all on their phones looking at this, and the buzz started, and it started to come out that what Sale did, and they were like, this has got to be a Twitter rumor. This is too weird to be true. And then it came out that this is actually what it was. So, we see it. The baseball world it keeps turning while we're here.
Well, listen, I wanted your take. My take on this is he was uncomfortable in the jersey. It was a very loose-fitting jersey. And as a pitcher, you got to have everything perfect. And if that jersey was uncomfortable, I'm with him. That's my take on it.
Okay, but let me ask you this. So your wife buys you a new pair of pants, and you put them on, and they don't fit really well. Are you going to cut them up, or are you going to take them back to the store?
Okay, that's. I might cut them up, to be honest with you. Maybe I'm in the same mentality. I don't think about the consequences. I just think about the moment. Good question, though. Good way to think about it. Craig, as always, good stuff. Great weekend. And can't wait to see it come around all over again next year.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, Craig Muter at the Baseball Hall of Fame. And it's open year-round, so you can go at any time.
Speaking of clothing, Ken Griffey Jr., by the way, yesterday had a tailor-made suit on. Of course, when you're that rich, they're all tailor-made, I'm sure. But it was pinstripes, and if you looked closely, the pinstripes read Baseball Hall of Fame 2016 inductee.
Oh, really? They were little letters that made the that's really cool.
That is cool.
Keith Rubino is in Philadelphia at the convention. He's from Herkimer. He is he's a delegate, a Democrat DNC delegate, and he is a Sanders supporter. He just got his credentials taken care of. How's the electricity, the excitement? You got to be pretty excited right now.
It's nuts over here. We got hundreds and hundreds of New York delegates here in this room, and then you've got hundreds, and I'm not kidding about hundreds of members of the media, just cameras everywhere, interviews happening all over the place. It's interesting, that I'm currently at the ballroom at the Lowe's Philadelphia Hotel, and this is just one of 20 hotels in the area where all the delegates are happening.
Yeah.
Last night we had a big party, a schmooze party. I mean, I'll tell you, the DNC asked for money, and it was quite apparent as to why they need money every year for their every 4 years for their convention.
Oh, I'll bet.
And when you go in there and you see chocolate fountains and gospel choirs, and oh my God, it was ridiculous.
So, Keith, I want to ask you, a lot of protests yesterday. Bernie Sanders, and you're a Bernie Sanders guy. A lot of Bernie protesters, and I don't think the WikiLeaks email scandal has helped. That's actually intensified the protesting.
Yeah, it has. And then obviously Debbie Wasserman Schultz stepping down. I mean, it's a very hollow victory there. I mean, we've been asking for her to step down and resign as DNC chair for ages. I mean, the only great thing about the WikiLeaks thing is that I don't have to wear a tinfoil hat anymore, and people can't accuse me of wearing a tinfoil hat. I mean, myself and many other Sanders supporters have been screaming from the beginning, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is in Clinton's camp. She rigged the debate schedule to have a limited amount of debates. She's not at all welcoming for Senator Sanders and the grassroots movement he's created. And everybody's like, "Oh, stop! You're just paranoid. You Sanders supporters." And now it's coming out. She actually called him scummy in an email. Called him scummy for not controlling his delegates at the Nevada convention. Which obviously that whole rumor that somebody threw a chair when. Yeah. The only thing that happened was somebody actually picked the chair up and just held it over their head because they were angry. Stupid thing to do, but that was all they did.
I got to tell you, though, from outside looking in, I don't think anybody's surprised. I mean, you're talking about Bernie Sanders, who is a self-proclaimed socialist. You just knew the Democrat Party, there was no way they were going to let Sanders become the nominee. And I don't think there was I was with you. I didn't think you were wearing a you were some alien believer, some crazy conspiracy theorist. I was with you. I felt they would do whatever they could to prevent Bernie Sanders from becoming the nominee. So
right, and I think you're right, and that I guess that was the most disheartening thing about the entire primary cycle, because, a party loyalty is important for the parties, obviously. But, I mean, Sanders has caucused with the Democrats before. He has supported up and down tickets. There's YouTube video of him back in 2008 or 2007 supporting Barack Obama for his run for senator.
Yeah.
Like he has supported Democratic candidates who align with his beliefs, but the fact that he chose to remain an independent for so long shouldn't be something the Democratic Party held against him, but they did.
Yeah.
I guess just the extent to the way they prevented his candidacy from happening. Even with the thousands and thousands of people that he drew in crowds and the amount of money he raised. Like $200 million from just pretty much grassroots donors.
And
like
small
it's incredible.
donations. Yeah. So where do you, as a delegate, I mean, Hillary's going to be your nominee. Versus Trump. I mean, where else are you going?
Right now, I might exercise my right to just abstain for now and figure out if there's another candidate for me. Unfortunately, this whole Jill Stein movement is sad. I've mentioned it before. I don't like Hillary Clinton as much as the next person that doesn't like Hillary Clinton, and maybe more. So, but I don't. I understand the whole fear thing, and that's what everybody's been doing on Clinton camp. Last night, I talked to all the Clinton delegates, and every single time I said, "Hey, why Hillary?" I'm just curious why. And their whole reason was, I don't want Donald Trump to be president.
Yeah.
And to me, my argument always is, well, Bernie has the better chance of beating Donald Trump in an election, but okay, whatever. It's fine, But to me, I think that going forward, even if Clinton becomes president, it's going to be better for the country than Donald Trump. I hate that argument, but I know it's a thing, and we can really work towards making the Democratic Party better. These people that want to jump ship because Bernie's not going to be the nominee, it's sad because they're going to go to the Green Party, which has zero infrastructure.
Right.
Jill Stein doesn't have any experience in politics that much. She's polling at 3%. There's no organization for her to even be elected president, let alone take over Senate and Congress and all that other election positions.
Yeah. Andrew.
So
Keith,
I say stick with the Democratic Party no matter what. They're the obvious better choice for me and my values. So I'm going to stick with them, and I'm going to hope that we can transform it and make it a more progressive party based upon the interests of the people.
Well, you got a lot of
there
are a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters in Philadelphia right now, so that's got to carry some weight. There's no doubt. Andrew, last question. Go ahead.
So a lot of people have said that Bernie Sanders supporters are going to go to the Gary Johnson route. We may have asked you that before, but what's your stance on that?
I don't understand why Bernie Sanders supporters would go to the Gary Johnson side, because Gary Johnson holds zero values that are similar to the senator. I mean, maybe one or two, but he's very fiscally conservative. He is just not somebody that I would think. Most of the people I know are going to Jill Stein.
All right. Interesting. Listen, I hope to be able to talk to you tomorrow as well. Enjoy this. Soak it all in. It's got to be pretty exciting.
It is. And like you were saying earlier, I know you don't have much time. The WikiLeaks thing and everything else has made this convention very interesting. I don't know what's going to happen with all that information. I don't think anything's going to change, but I mean, it's going to be pretty interesting on the floor to see how they treat the Bernie Sanders delegates now that this information's come to light about the DNC.
Yeah, and doesn't Wasserman, does she still speak? I think
I tell you, I think it's in her best interest to not speak at all, but I do think Wasserman Schultz is speaking, and I guarantee you there are going to be massive amounts of boos from
that
Bernie
is going to be
no. She
a moment, though.
Her comments were scrapped. She gavels in and gavels out as chairwoman, but her scheduled address, whatever you want to call it.
They scratched them?
Yes. They've got.
But
I've got
even her presence, it's going to be interesting to see the reaction. She's going to get a lot of boos.
Definitely.
All right, interesting. Okay, Keith, we'll talk to you again maybe tomorrow, okay?
Yeah, sounds great.
Thanks so much.
All right, bye-bye.
Keith, as we said, is from Herkimer. He is a Democratic delegate. We spoke with Anthony Brindisi earlier, another delegate. Brindisi supporting Clinton. Keith has been, right from the beginning, a big Bernie Sanders guy. And we find it to be interesting. This is the Democrat week. Going to be interesting, as it looks like this one might be far more uncontrolled than what was expected, far more than the Republican convention. Quickly?
I was just going to say he was trying to get Bernie, of course, to come to the odd. I'm just checking here. The vice chair, Donna Brazil, is going to speak instead.
Oh, she is? Okay.
Yeah.
And she's taking over for Wasserman after this is all, after the convention is done. All right, hold tight. We're coming back. By the way, polling out today has Trump leading Hillary Clinton in the national polls. About that, pretty interesting. 8:32, we'll do news next on WIBX.